Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Sacred Anarchies, a post-church podcast. We're happy to have you with us. How do you feel about it, Baz?
I feel very shriven today, actually.
Shriven, explain.
Or it's Shrove Tuesday.
Shrove.
Yeah, it's Shrove Tuesday, Pancake Day.
Yeah, I didn't know it was called Shrove. I knew it was Pancake Day.
No, it's not actually Pancake Day. It's Shrove Tuesday, the day before Ash Wednesday. From the English word to shrive, hence I've been shriven, which means to obtain absolution.
Well, this is all kind of new to me, which I feel a little silly that it is new to me on air. I mean, I was well aware of Pancake Day and I was well aware of the meaning behind Pancake Day, kind of getting rid of all of the indulgences in your house, the flour, the sugar, the sweet creams, making pancakes and getting rid of it for the next 40 days so you can kind of live self-sacrificially. However,
Yeah, kind of.
shriven, I was not
Uh,
aware of.
yeah, Shrove Tuesday is the official name. I was in the Anglican Church for a while, so they go for official names. So they're not even really pancakes, but
No, it's
they're
just
more
an
like
easy way
crepes
to
and
say it.
pancakes, really.
Yeah, it's just probably like
And
the
yeah,
easy way to say it.
but it's so funny. It is funny to me that pretzels and waffles have become these big sort of dessert things. You can get those massive pretzels all over America. Those ones they sell in those pretzel shops, and waffles that everybody has for breakfast. And they're both products of Lent.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Waffles, I think, came from uh, Holland, or well, Belgium, so from the Low Countries, and pretzels came from Germany, and they were foods that were eaten during Lent, and basically it was because they'd run out of meat. That was the whole deal with Lent, is that you ate the last of the food that you had before the spring lambs came.
Right. Yeah, that I knew.
So pretzels and waffles were two different cultural kind of ways that they used up the last of the flour and stuff and made simple plain food before the
Which is
feasting.
a little different to what I just said about Pancake Tuesday,
Well, yeah,
or a
because
lot different.
now everybody has pancakes, and it's like there's enough whipped cream to sink a battleship, and
Yeah, well, it's the idea of it's like the night before you go on a diet the next day, you kind of like
yeah,
order a couple Big Macs. It's that kind of thing where you just indulge. But I
yeah.
think it's so
Well,
interesting.
it's also it's also called like Fat Tuesday,
Yeah, Fat Tuesday.
and it's where and really, it's, I mean, I think I've said this before, is there's such a fascination within a lot of Christianity, particularly like evangelicalism and post-evangelicalism and non-denominational things, to like celebrate Lent.
Yeah.
Um, but if there isn't a feast, then your fast is actually, I think, in vain.
Huh.
I think without carnival, the abstention doesn't make sense. And it's so typical. Typical, that sounds very judgmental, but I'm going to go with it. It's so typical that people would choose the self-negation
Mhm.
over the self-indulgence, and not see the self-indulgence actually as part and parcel of the whole process of the human relationship between being human and the encountering of the sacred.
Well, that just got
Geez,
really
what?
deep really
I
fast.
know, sorry, but no, but you know what I mean. I
No, but
mean,
it's a beautiful thing
there's
to talk about because nobody ever really talks about the indulgence or like, the pre work or the pre-carnival, the pre-holiday or whatever you want to call it, the
yeah,
pre-moments of Lent and Ash Wednesday. Because I mean, So as you know, and as a lot of our listeners know, I grew up Catholic when I was a
Yeah,
girl, but by the time I had hit adolescence and my teenage years, we were already in a charismatic evangelical church, which
yeah.
obviously is the opposite of like anything really liturgical. They just kind of get away from all of that stuff. And
Except these
um,
days.
but well, except these days, because I think a lot of people who are finding that just very dissatisfied with kind of, evangelical ecclesial practices, to say the very
Yeah,
least about it, want some more ritual in their life, want something a little bit more
yeah,
meaningful that they can kind of stick their teeth into or whatever, sink their teeth into. There we go. That's
yeah,
the word I wanted. So yeah, they are bringing those liturgical practices back. But all that to say, when I was in the evangelical church, they kind of wanted nothing to do with those practices. They wanted nothing to
yeah,
do with ritual because there was this binary of like, well, if you're ritualistic, you're kind of in bondage and it's about works
yeah,
and not faith and that
yeah,
whole thing.
yeah,
So I moved on from the ritual of Catholicism before I really had chance to properly kind of engage it.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, even all that to say, even within my evangelical church who really rejected a lot of the ritual, there was still something about Ash and Lent. And I think
yeah,
it's because the premise of it was self-sacrifice. And
yeah.
essentially that's what, at least it's what the evangelicals think they're all about. But
Yeah, I mean, I do think as well it's kind of laughable that people
mm,
think the only ritualized version of religion is the liturgical one, as if,
yeah.
you know, three fast songs, two slow songs, and a
Mhm.
sermon isn't a ritual. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
we ritualize our life. I go to coffee every morning and a walk with my brother. My brother and I do a morning walk and get a coffee pretty much every day. That's a ritual.
Yeah.
You could say it's a routine, but part of it is a routine, but it's also a ritual act.
Yeah.
There's a shared experience around an object, which I think is part of the what the ritual thing is. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I always thought it was kind of, you're missing out a little bit. It's like when you see everybody poo-pooing like carnival in New Orleans. And I realized that, it becomes unmoored from religion. So it does become just this big drunk fest. But there
Yeah.
is a sense in which actually the whole idea of feasting and those occasions, you wore masks so that you could actually do what you couldn't do with your face on. I mean, there
Like
was
no inhibitions really at
no
all.
inhibitions, and it
Yeah.
was all I mean, that one of my favorite paintings is by Bruegel, not the one behind me, but and it's called The Battle Between Carnival and Lent, and it's a
Mm.
painting about two responses to Lent. And one side, the Protestant side, they're all eating and drinking and coming out of the pub, and the other side is the Catholic side, and they're all like withered and ascetic and coming out of the church dressed for funeral, and mourning, and
Yeah.
they come together in a clash, and in the middle there's a couple being led by a holy fool
Yeah.
out of the madness of religion and religious wars over how things are practiced, when really I think you need uh, indulgence and abstention to
Yeah.
make the process work,
Yeah.
and not just whipped cream on your pancakes and then give up,
Yeah. I mean,
chocolate
were
for
you
Lent.
someone, I know you were in obviously the Episcopalian church for a lot of years, but were you someone even outside of that high church environment at any point? Did you often indulge, no pun intended, but indulge in the ashes on your forehead and make the
Yeah.
sacrifices and abstain from things? Was that a thing you did?
I mean, outside of like being in a liturgical environment.
Well, I guess even when you were in the Episcopalian church, was that something that you did and that
Well, I
you
mean,
partook in?
I mean, I participated in
Yeah.
all the services of Lent because I was functioning in
Well,
that.
sure, because you were a priest, but did you
Yeah.
specifically like were you walking around Ash Wednesday all day with ash on your forehead? And did
Oh
you
God, no,
pick
no,
something to give up for the 40
no.
days of
I
Lent?
no because I always felt that to me, and it's difficult because I don't want to be it can sound judgy, but I think a lot of people view Lent like other people view New Year's resolutions.
Mhm.
Like, I'm going to
Mhm.
give up this
Yeah.
for 40, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
again, historically, it was the church that set the fast for the community and told them what to fast for. And it usually had to do with the performance of acts of charity.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think, and again, you know, and of course, it's the hyper individualization of faith that means, you know, you use it as a way of dealing with your own stuff, and I have no problem
Yeah.
with that. But
Yeah.
I was like, well, maybe I'll give up being an asshole for Lent. That's difficult. That's difficult. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I did a few, you know, give up God for service Lent kind of things, you know, and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm not knocking it. I think there's real value in the whole thing. But it's worth remembering that every Sunday in Lent is a feast day, which is why it lasts longer than 40 days, because
Mhm.
every Sunday you're meant to stop whatever you're doing and feast for that day. So if
Yeah.
you give up chocolate for Lent, Sundays you should have some.
Yeah. Sunday's the day where you can kind of be a little extravagant with it all.
Yeah, it's a feast day. So
Yeah.
you
It
lay
makes sense
aside
because it's a Sabbath day also, so you're resting
yeah,
from the fast and from, the toiling
yeah,
of the sacrifice, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, growing up, again, Catholic, I remember a couple of years where I went to like elementary school with ash on my forehead.
yeah. I mean,
And,
there's
I
something.
mean, like I grew up in New York, so it was like, and I grew up in an Italian American community. So, it was like this shared kind of understanding and the shared like religious cultural horizon where you'd go around town and you'd go around Main Street and you'd be going to get your bagels and you'd go to the butcher and you'd go to get, the coffee or whatever. And you'd see people walking around with ash and they were strangers, but you kind of
Yeah,
felt like you had something in common and that was kind of cool. And then like in grade school, being such a young kid and going to school with like effing ash on your head, I think that's a little
yeah,
effed up. But you did have a few kids in school who did the same thing and you kind of felt a little bit set apart, a little bit different. It was also mysterious. You're like, why does this person have like ash on?
yeah,
It's all of that. But I don't know, I just don't think it was ever really well explained. And it was something I personally got caught up in because as a child, and you can obviously see this in my personality now, it's just who I am. I always get caught up in like fantastical things and like the romance and the sentiment and the mystery and like the sexiness sort of it all. It's a bit more curbed now because I'm obviously more rational and logical as an adult than you are as a child. But as a child, when you're caught up in story and fairy tales and magical things that happen, and someone offers you ash on your forehead because something magical might happen, you take it and you wait for the magical
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I actually quite liked, you know, I mean, I sort of liked the whole process of that. I mean, it's kind of an interesting reminder, you know, you are dust and to dust you will return. I mean,
well,
that's
and that
pretty,
is very cool. Yeah.
it's quite sobering. I mean, if you let it be. And I my friend Gabri and I used to do uh, a, a sort of an Ash Wednesday service with a twist that involved, you know, kind of mood and things like
Mhm.
that. And we did we sort of arted our way through Lent, even within the traditional um, liturgical environment that we're in, sort of pushing the horizons a little bit to try and spark um, a sort of sense of something other than, oh, it's Ash Wednesday, therefore I need ashes, but to sort of make that impactful. But I you know, it's really funny that even in LA, um, if you pay attention tomorrow, you'll see so many people walking around Los Angeles with ashes on their forehead from
Well,
all
Los
walks
Angeles
of.
is a very spiritual place.
Yeah, and you know, there's a big Catholic presence in certain areas, and but yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people that, and a lot of people, you know, a surprising number of people show up at churches just for Ash Wednesday because they want that that moment. It's
Yeah, they
interesting.
do want that moment. And I think people want that moment now more than ever. You know, they want a safe haven where they can just kind of sit, be quiet, reflect, and where they're given permission to think about themselves and their own life and their existential precarity. Because, you know, at this moment in time, I think everybody's feeling, we talked about this last night on Monday Musings, everybody's feeling really guilty about like just trying to move on with their own lives with everything that's going on in the world and with
Yeah.
Ukraine and all of these things and all of these tragedies and things that we seemingly can't do anything about. At the same time, how do you enjoy a sunset? How do you just make dinner for your kids at the end of the, you know, how do you do these normal things when when people in Ukraine can't do them, you know, the same as
Yeah.
you. And so I think people now more than ever just want a safe space to just sit and be allowed to reflect on their lives, kind of the state of their
Yeah.
their being, their mortality, you know, and just really reflect. And I think it's good. I think it's
Yeah.
really good as long as we're honest with what it is we're doing and what it is we're not doing, because
Mm.
you know, Christianity is a vehicle in which we make meaning, in which we can ritualize some really important mores and values and ethics. And it's a narrative in which we all kind of find ourselves connected to and connected by. Um, but obviously, something like Lent, self reflection, the whole dust to dust piece, the existential precarity piece, even like the self sacrifice or the acts of whatever, you can do that across the board, you know, any
Yeah.
religion, no religion at all.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
yeah, as
you know,
Becker wrote, you know,
yeah,
we all need a little immortality project,
yeah,
so that our
indeed.
symbols, so that our symbolic self can find a little meaning in the
Yeah.
meaninglessness of
And I don't
existence.
mind that because you know I still claim I think we both to some extent claim Christianity. I mean, these days, I'm mostly talking about our work and
Yeah.
my work within a post-Christian horizon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I don't know, maybe there aren't really category. Well, who likes categories anyway? I don't know if there are categories for us, and
Yeah.
by us I mean you and I anyway. But um, yeah, all that to say, I think it's good, and I think that people are going to be engaging with this kind of stuff, you know, now more than ever.
Let's hope so.
So we'll see. And speaking of Lent and speaking of engaging with it, we are dropping our Dance of Death curriculum, content, course, meditations, time, space, I don't know. This Sunday, March 6th. So we're really excited. We have 6 sessions. Each one will drop on a Sunday, with the very sixth session being live. So check out the show notes. There's still time to join. Yeah, we'd love to have you. There'll always be time to join. It's going to be a course that just lives on. But
Indeed. Even though it's about death,
even though it's about death,
it's going to live. Even though it's about death.
it's gonna live even though it's dead, dying, whatever.
All right. Well, do you feel shriven?
Now I feel shriven. Yeah, I'm ready to shrive.
Hand shrive.
Shrive. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us again. And
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see you next time on Sacred Anarchies. Thank you. And thanks, Baz.
Thank you. Toodaloo.
See you.
Happy
Bye.
Fat Tuesday.
Happy pancake.
Bye.